Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is one of those mornings, everybody, and this time, oh, so many years ago now, if you can believe it, I was just getting through labour. I think the baby's head was just about popping out, something like that. Maybe it had already popped out, but anyway, those of you who are mothers know what I'm talking about. Right, good morning, everybody. Before we begin this morning, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is, as always, thank goodness, he's always there for me. He's always there. So we say good morning to Grey Eagle. Oh, thank goodness for Chris. What would we do without Chris? Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. So today's a big day for you and your darling girl.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's a big day. It is a birthday day, April the 7th. I think, well, first of all, let's see. Do we have anybody there? I'm going to
Yes,
tell
we
you
do. And they're
in a
logging
minute.
on.
In a minute, I'm going to tell you a story about the number 7 and why I think it's my number. Or maybe I should leave that for story time, but I'll tell it this morning. I'll tell that story this morning. As soon as we've got everybody sort of safely logged on, we'll give it a few more minutes. So, any comments? Anything going on at the moment, Chris?
Well, Mark's already on it saying happy birthday. Let's see. Many happy and beautiful returns to Samantha.
Oh, thanks,
And
Mark.
Annika's saying happy birthday to Samantha. And Cheryl's saying happy birthday to
Oh,
Samantha.
goodness me. Well, I think I'll pass it all on. That's so nice of you all. Yes, well, it's I can remember when I was I wanted a baby. We're going back a few years now. You understand that, right? I wanted a baby, and I'd had so many health issues. I'd had 2 major surgeries, and should I do the and almost died thing?
Only if it's true.
It is true, but anyway, that's beside the point. And I was extremely weak. My body, of course, was very, very weak. There was a point when I weighed, and people look at me and they don't believe me when I tell them this. But there was a point, I'm going to shock you all now, and some of you probably will not believe me when I weighed, and I am 5'6" tall, and at my lowest weight, I actually weighed about 85 pounds. I remember I was so weak, and I remember when the nurses and the doctors, gave the all clear, and now I can get up, can walk about a bit, and they like you to get up as soon as possible because otherwise all that anaesthetic stays on your chest and so on. And I remember being taken, a nurse on sort of holding either side of me. I was holding onto their arms, and they were walking me very, very slowly around the hospital ward, where there were several beds on either side of this very long hospital ward. And we'd sort of, shuffle along. We'd get to one bed and we'd pause for a bit, and then we get to the next bed and pause for a bit. And it was quite painful. But as I was walking around, and all of these other lovely women in there who'd also had, different surgeries and so on. But I was the youngest by a long shot. I was the youngest there, and at that point in time, I was the most sick. That doesn't mean I was the most sick, forever after, but I was the most sick at that time. And also, I'd been in a coma for a while, so everybody was watching. The patients were watching as well as the doctors and the nurses. I didn't realize this, but anyway. So everybody sort of was invested a little bit in my progress. So as I'm walking from bed to bed, and these lovely women, if they could get out of bed, they'd come and say hello to me. If they had to stay in bed, they'd wave and say hi. And, I got lovely comments about, you know, how pleased they were to see me up and what have you. And we got to one bed, and I can remember quite clearly. We got to this one bed where this lovely lady, and I was wearing uh, a robe which was to the knee, like a silky thing that was to the knee. And as we got towards her, she let out this enormous gasp and, oh my God, your legs. Oh, God, look at her legs, look at her legs. And I, you know, sort of no idea what she was talking about. But, and this is going to sound very weird and odd. I don't know if you've ever seen anyone like this, but all of the muscles in the backs of my legs had completely gone, and the skin that had sort of gone around the muscle, the skin was like, on both legs, were like sort of wizened sacks sort of hanging down on my legs, because all the muscle, everything had gone. And I mean, luckily the muscle built back up and it was fine. But it was such, I think it was such a shock for people to see, and it was such a shock for me when I looked down, and you know, these horribly skinny and sort of all this saggy wrinkled skin around the backs of my legs was actually awful. When I tell people that story, it's so hard to believe that it can happen. I know that a lot of people don't really believe it, but um, of course it was nothing like, you see, the horrors that the you know, the people in the concentration camps used to have to live through. And I'm sure it's nothing to the horrors of many of the prisons around the world. But not that I was in a prison. But when you have been through all of that, and then, of course, then I couldn't conceive, had several miscarriages, and I think my body just was too weak. And then it turned out that there were other issues, and on and on. My body is a very weird vehicle, for in more ways than one. So when I did have my daughter, she was the miracle who they said was probably not ever going to happen. And in those days, because we didn't have in vitro, we didn't have, you know, you couldn't go and have an eggplant or anything like that. You either got pregnant or you didn't get pregnant. Um, and with so many miscarriages as I'd had before, my fabulous doctor, I had a wonderful doctor, uh, put me on 9-month bed rest. And I was on 9-month bed rest for literally the whole time that I was carrying Samantha. I knew 1 week, I was probably about 2 weeks pregnant, and we didn't have sticks to pee on either. But my doctor sort of bypassed that and sent stuff off to the clinic and got stuff back, got results back early. And I remember going to the doctor's office, and he said, okay, he said, well, he said, I've got good news and bad news. What do you want? Which do you want first? So I said, okay, I'll have the good news. He said, the good news is you're pregnant. So I said, well, what's the bad news? And he said, bed rest. Until you have this baby, you're on 9-month total bed rest. And that's what I did. So you can see why this child of mine and why this day is so important to me, because it was something that I was told would probably never happen. And there it did, and it happened. So, Chris, what do you think to that story?
I think in that case, you should have named her Victoria.
Well, it's funny you should say this, because when she popped out, she had black, almost black hair, and it stuck up like a toilet brush. You know how it all sticks
Yeah.
up? It stuck up like that. And when my doctor came a couple of hours after I'd had her, and he came to see me and check on me and everything, he said to me, what are you going to call her? And I told him, and he said, no. He said, you should name her Victoria, because she's wearing this beautiful crown of hair. But We didn't. So it's funny you should say that, Chris.
That's hilarious. Hey,
Yeah.
Maggie's on. She's sitting in pre-op right now. In a couple of
Ooh.
hours, she's going in for surgery.
Okay, Maggie. All right. We're sending you healing. Don't worry. It'll be okay. Are you nervous? Are you scared? Don't be nervous. Don't be scared, because as nervous and as scared as we are, it's really we're more. I think the fear is more about not knowing, or going into something perhaps and not knowing the end result. But I'm going to tell you, Maggie, here's the end result. I'll tell you now, so you needn't be frightened. You'll be perfectly fine. And we're sending you lots of healing. Don't be surprised if you don't see my face when you come out of the operating room. It wouldn't be the first time that a patient of mine has seen me looming over them, even when I'm not there, even when I'm miles away, even when I'm another country away.
So Andrea says, "Happy birthday, Samantha. Your story of wanting a baby, Rosemary, brings back memories of our want for a baby and my meeting you for the first time in Meadow Hall. You answered our prayer and said, 'Yes, you will have a baby.' Our son
Oh,
was born 10 months later. Sorry to hear your story of you being so unwell years ago."
listen, don't be sorry, because it was such a blessing to me to have to go through all of that, because it means that I truly have empathy now uh, for others who go through similar or worse. What's the name of this lady again?
Andrea.
Now listen, Andrea, did we talk behind a closed curtain in a dressing room? Were there three of us there? I think the manager might have been there. You might be the manager. Anyway, I want to know it all. And was it that fantastic dress shop that's, I don't think, not there anymore, because I can't remember the name of it now. What was the name of it now? But I do remember you, and I do remember actually saying to you, that you would have a baby, and there was no doubt in my mind whatsoever. Gosh, how many years ago is that? How old is your son now? Can you just fill us in a little bit now? Come on, fill us in a bit. Gosh, that's a while ago, Chris. Right.
So Eric's popping on and obviously saying happy birthday to
Hi,
Samantha and
darling.
giving his best to you. He'd put some names on the healing list earlier this week, and they're having a few issues still going on. So I think this would be the time to mention, if people haven't downloaded our calendar on the website, that tomorrow at 5 p.m. you're doing Healing Hands Around the World.
I am, but I'm going to do something a little bit different, because usually when we do Healing Hands Around the World, and if you want to do, you can go to YouTube. You can find all of the things that we've done, and you'll see how I taught people through how to sit, how to visualize, how to create energy, and how to send energy out. So that's all there, and we will be doing more of that. But um, I've thought about this on and off all week long. Uh, so many of us have issues with our bodies. Now, uh, you can get your nose fixed, you can get your ears fixed, you can get your boobs fixed, you can get your bum fixed, you can get anything on your body fixed, right? Almost anything. You can get sculptured and all of this. If you've got the money, you can do anything you want with your body. But as we sort of grow up, when we're kids and we grow up, for so many of us, uh, we have something. It might be one thing, it might be the whole body, who knows, or it might be just one thing that you don't like about your body. And healing, first and foremost, starts with the self. And I've been working. You'll be excited to know I've been working on the new book, my new book, Grey Eagle Speaks, and I've been getting it really. We're fine tuning it now. We're getting it, sort of getting all the editing done. And basically, this book is questions for Grey Eagle, and then Grey Eagle gives the answers. And he deals with so many different topics, and so many different topics that are relevant to us, even today. And Greg and I, we've been doing this for years and years, and lots of people have given lots and lots of questions over the years. It started out with one friend of mine, and we had questions for Grey Eagle, and he would give us the answers, and she'd make notes and so on. And then other people came in, and then over the years we've had so many different people giving questions to Grey Eagle and him answering, and he answers questions in the most phenomenal way. But in one of these questions, and I was going through this yesterday, and one of these questions is about whether we should be selfish or not, and should we be selfish with ourselves? And of course, his answer is, healer, heal thyself first. And so, years and years ago, I had a wonderful couple who used to come. In fact, he was the president of our healing organization, Peter Bolton, and his wife Lynn. And she had issues. She, for whatever reason, she hated her legs. We all have a bit of us, or a part of us, my chin is crooked, or one eyebrow's higher than the other, or I've got awful hands, big hands, or ugly feet, or on and on we go, right? We all of us have something about ourselves that maybe we would wish was different. Now, some of us perhaps don't obsess, but a lot of us obsess over those things. And if only this, and if I was shorter, if I were taller, if I were thinner, if I were fatter, etc., etc., on and on it goes. So with Lynn, she hated her legs, and so I devised, not just for Lynn, but for people like Lynn, and even myself. I'm trying to think what it is about my own body that I was always too skinny, because that doesn't apply anymore. But I was always thin as a stick. But anyway, so I devised an exercise which I'm going to show all of you tomorrow how to do. I'm going to talk you through this exercise, and I'm going to show you how we learn. And it's hard. And I remember when I showed Lynn how to do this exercise, I remember her crying and getting upset, and I just can't do it. And it just reminds me how ugly I am, and on and on. And in the end, she persevered and got through it, and it made a huge difference to her in the way that she saw herself. And so I thought that tomorrow we would go through that exercise, and I would show you what to do with this exercise and how to do it. And it's the simplest thing in the world. You don't have to be a genius to do it. You just have to have a little bit of patience, and you have to trust the process. And trust me, if I say it's going to work for you, trust me, it will work for you. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. And as if to confirm that that's what we should do, as I said, I was reading one of the questions yesterday and reading Grey Eagle's answer. And yes, of course, we should be selfish with ourselves. We have to feed ourselves first. Which may sound very selfish, because there are people who think no, we should be selfless. We should give to others, and I feel very strongly that we should be selfish to a point, not to the point where we hurt other people or dismiss other people, but we need to feed ourselves. We need to feed our soul. We need to feed that which we are. And it's only when we can do that we are then knowledgeable and healthy enough and strong enough to give our energy out to other people. I've seen healers who don't do this, who don't feed themselves, who don't know how to feed their own bodies, don't know how to love their own bodies. And I see them sort of, the more they give and the more they give and the more they give, the more their energy is drained and drained and drained until they're no use to anybody, especially not themselves. So tomorrow we're going to do that exercise where I'm going to teach you all how to love every little tiny, teeny inch of your bodies. Are you ready for it, Chris?
Absolutely. Hey, this would be a good time to pose one of the questions in the chat room.
Go.
So Miriam says, I have an urgent question. My sister is with me and homeless and makes no effort to change.
Oh dear.
She also
Ooh.
has another sister who's homeless.
Uh-oh.
Is there a message from the spirit world? Anybody who wants to say something?
Well, I'll give you a message from Grey Eagle if that helps you. Boy, oh boy. If you get a message from Grey Eagle, that's something. So, but he's tapping me on the shoulder. So listen really, really carefully. Now, it's so hard, isn't it, to give tough love? But sometimes we have to do it because if we don't give tough love, then those who need it will never grow. They'll never do anything for themselves. They'll just always be, let's say, the takers of this world. Now, we can say that these people are incapable, and some people are incapable. Some people are emotionally so damaged that they are not able to help themselves. But I suspect that this is not the case here. I suspect it is while ever you give somebody a bed, they'll take it, rather than going out and finding one of their own or working for one of their own. It's very hard to say no. That one little word is so hard to say no. But as much as I sympathize with your plight, and as much as I know, we all worry when we have to give tough love. We all worry what the results or the consequences of tough love will be. So if people don't work to earn enough to take care of themselves, when they're able-bodied, then, and they will always put upon others, I guess it's up to you to decide, do you want to be that person who is put upon? My feeling is if they don't want to go out and work and they're eating my food and they're using my bed and my shower and all of my other stuff, then they're fine. If you don't want to go out to work, that's fine. But hey, there are jobs to do in the house. So let's let's make sure they earn what they get one way or another. It's tough, but I suspect that you're a softie. And I suspect that as much as it frustrates you, the bottom line is you're afraid to give tough love. And I do understand why that is. And it's your choice whether to give it or whether not to forgive it. Here's the thing. That's from Grey Eagle. But here's the thing. People come to me. They come to me for consultations all the time. They come to me for advice. People listen to me on shows like this one. And you know, I can help and I can guide, and I do all the time. But I cannot take your choices away from you. That's not my job. I cannot say to you, you've got to do this or that. I cannot say to you, people call me and say, I've got a choice of 2 jobs. Which one should I take? My answer is, whichever one you want to take. I cannot take your choices away. I can guide you. I can give you the, you know, I can guide you in some of the pitfalls. If you take this one, then this will happen. If you take that one, then this will happen. But I'm not I'm not the one who decides for you. That is not my job. And if I start to decide for people, I don't think Gregor would be happy. He wouldn't let me anyway, but I wouldn't want to. Why would I want the responsibility of choosing for you which house you're going to have? I've got 3 houses, and which one shall I have, Rosemary? You pick. It's your choice. It's your house. You choose. Let me see which I need surgery. Which one shall I have? This one or this one? Well, I can help you and I can guide you. and I can steer you in the right direction. Absolutely. That's my job to do that. I'm happy to do that. But hey, the bottom line, the decision, the final decision is yours. I'm not going to choose for you, because that would be taking away your free will. And I'm not entitled to do that for you. So when we're talking about this situation that you're in, my darling, with your sister, and she's homeless and so on, it was your choice to say, okay, you can come and stay here. Did you do provisos? Did you say, but you can't stay here forever? Or what did you say? You can be here for as long as you need. Well, hey, well then, if you change your mind, my suggestion is you sit and talk to your sister, and you say, this is really tough for me, it's hard for me. And if you're going to stay here, then you've got to pull your weight, and you've got to, it's your job to make the dinner, and it's your job to clean the bathrooms, and it's your job to do this and this, because, that's only fair. But the choice as to how you approach it, and the choice as to whether you have tough love or you give tough love, is yours to make, not mine. Chris.
So Andrea responded back about how long ago her son, well, he's 21, and she said, yes.
21 years ago, right?
She said, yes, we did. I was the seamstress at French dressing.
That's it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Oh, my darling. And you're still 21 years later, and we're still connecting. A friend of mine, I called a friend of mine on Sunday, and she was in Meadowhall. I don't know if you still live near Meadowhall, but when I come to England, watch out. Keep following me. Keep watching me, because I'd love to meet you and love to catch up. We could meet in Meadowhall, couldn't we? Chris.
Let us see. Sharon's asking, do
Yes.
you see babies in my future, Rosemary? My biological clock is ticking.
I can tell you, Sharon, when we had this conversation or something similar to this, I can tell you, my darling, that they are yours if you want them. However, what you're going to do to get them, you see? I have a lovely friend of mine who has daughters, and one of these daughters so badly wanted a baby, but she didn't have a relationship. And so she went the in vitro way. I mean, isn't it nice that we can do that nowadays? Isn't it? I mean, I would not have my grandson if it were not for in vitro. I know there are a lot of people against it. You should do it naturally, blah, blah, blah. Yes, well, I've been there, and it doesn't work out very often that way. And I was really fortunate to have my daughter. But my grandson, he was an in vitro baby. There are lots of ways, Sharon. Don't wait around, or do wait around. The clock is ticking, as you just said. There are lots of ways to do it. And if you want to have a baby, I'm asking Grey Eagle here. Yes, you can have one if you want one, but you've got to do something about it, honey bun. Chris.
All right. I'm going to shorten Andrew's question. Maybe I can't shorten it. Anyway, he had a sitting with a medium/healer. His wife said she would visit in a dream phase when the time was right. The trouble is he doesn't have dreams, and he can't remember them if he does. So any tips on remembering dreams? She also said in her culture, once gone, forgotten. In my case, her memory of me will continue to grow as I go down my pathway.
What do you
So
mean?
it's all about remembering dreams.
What do you mean once gone and forgotten?
I don't know.
No,
That's just...
Andrew. No. We don't do that, because they're never gone, and we don't forget them. If we love them, we absolutely do not forget them. So I don't know who told you that, but no. So that's okay. And let's see. I think that what you can do is to decide when you go to bed at night, is to ask, to maybe to talk to your wife and ask her, will you come to me in my dream state tonight? I'd love to have a visit from you, or can I go visit you? Whichever it is. I think that it's always a good idea to keep a pad and a pencil, a pen or a pencil, by your bedside, close by your bedside, so that when you first wake up, get into the habit of anything that you might remember or that might be sort of like this vague thing in the back of your head, sort of wake up and take a minute, don't wake up and jump straight out of bed. That might be, what you do. Just take a while to wake up. Give yourself a little bit of space and thought when you wake up, and just sort of just allow your mind to relax and allow the memories, if there are any, to come in. And immediately as they start to flow in, if they do, write them down. That's why it's always important to have a notepad and a pen. I know that not many people use pens and paper these days. We make notes on our iPads and things. It doesn't work the same, because when you're sort of in that half asleep dream state thing that's going on, and you sort of, you have these experiences or these memories, grab the pen or pencil and just start scribbling down. And that's a way for you to remember. But you need to ask your wife before you go to bed, can you visit me tonight? I'd love a visit. Or can I visit you? Chris?
Kevin is wondering about collaboration in the spirit world. Is there collaboration?
I don't know quite, Kevin. I don't quite know what you mean by that. Do people talk to each other? Yes. Do people, I tell you, I'll give you an example of collaboration. So here's the thing. So when people book an appointment with me to have a consultation with me, I can assure you that a lot of people turn up. Somehow or another, the word goes out, and Gregor gathers together the families. Would that be collaboration? Yeah, that would count as collaboration, I think. So the answer to your question is yes, but I suppose you need to be. Can you define it more? Give me an idea of what it is you're after. Do people talk to each other in the spirit world? Absolutely. Do they get together with each other? Absolutely. Do they have parties? Without a doubt, because I've been invited to some and I've been to some. Oh, I remember going to, yeah, well, maybe I'll tell that story on Saturday. I might have told it before. Okay, Chris, can you make a little note? If I don't make a note, I should forget what I'm saying here. So make a little note about an out-of-body experience in Egypt. Yes. I might have
Okay.
told the story before, but I'll tell it again because it's a fun time. So do we collaborate? Are there parties? Chris, put that little note in there as well, because I'll tell you how I actually was whisked off to a party. Yes. Yes. All right, keep going.
Barbara says, good morning. You've
Good
spoken of
morning.
Piper visiting Reese from the spirit world. So, do our earthly pets also communicate with those who have departed? Does my dog, Zoe, ever see or hear my husband? Is he still able to snuggle with her?
I
By the
bet you.
way, Donnie's last name was Piper. I found
Oh,
that to be an interesting coincidence, and
oh
thank you
yeah,
for all the
very.
love you send us.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt. I years and years ago, I'll tell you this little story. Many years ago, I used to have my students come to the house every Friday night, and I had a dog. Uh, his name is Karma, and he was a spaniel, a cavalier. He was, without a doubt, the ugliest dog you've ever seen. He was stinky, he was smelly, didn't matter what you did with him, didn't matter how many times a day you bathed him, didn't matter. He was stinky, he was smelly, and he was cross-eyed. and he was the absolute love of my life. And people would wonder, how can you cuddle that dog? He stinks so badly. Um, in the end, the only way that we could that I could stop him from smelling was to actually shave his hair to sort of be really, really short, because he had some sort of skin disease that would sort of, make him smelly otherwise. And so I think it was every 6 weeks, the traveling groomer would come and whisk him off, come to the house, pick him up, whisk him off, and bring him back 2 or 3 hours later, looking so happy with his tail wagging and so pleased with himself because it was all sort of nice and lovely again. But he still was ugly because he had one eye that sort of sank in like this, and the other eye was often rolled around. Who knows? But he was mine, and in that, sometimes something is so ugly that it's beautiful in its ugliness. I have a clock that is so ugly that I love it because it's so beautiful. On and on it goes. Anyway, and so on Friday nights, he would, he would be in the room, and we'd be all sitting there, and sometimes we'd be, sort of holding hands, and I would explain to them how to raise their level of consciousness. So people were learning how to meditate, so on and so forth, and and he was wonderful. And so it would be fairly quiet in the room, and all of a sudden this dog, for no reason whatsoever, would sit up ramrod straight. His back would be ramrod straight, and he'd be staring off into the corner of the room, and he'd be staring. And all of my students, instead of doing what they were supposed to be doing, they'd be staring at the dog, wondering what he was staring at. And then, he'd stare and stare and stare, and then whisk his head around, and he'd stare in another spot and stare and stare and stare. Of course, we knew that he was seeing people in the spirit world. Of course, our darling pets see people in the spirit world, and of course, our darling people in the spirit world see our pets. Yes, absolutely. And I'll bet your little puppy absolutely sees your husband. Can they cuddle? Absolutely. I've cuddled with my puppies. I remember I was writing, I can't remember now which book it was. I think it was Proud Spirit, when my puppy, I found him. I'm thinking, what's something warm on my feet? What is that? And I looked down, and there he was, all snuggled up on my foot and curled up and sound asleep, and just snuggling up to me. And he was, would we say he's dead? No, you wouldn't say he's dead, would you? You'd say he just had come to visit me from the spirit world. Isn't that nice?
It's
Chris?
fabulous.
Yeah.
So Andrew's seeing somebody where he lives that gave him a reading. This person suggested he should receive hands-on spiritual healing and also learn how to do it. So he says, I can already demonstrate energy in my hands through Tai Chi practice, which I mentioned to my Reiki master friend that he sees. This medium/healer says spiritual healing is different than Reiki. And then he goes on to say, I've had hands-on spiritual healing, and I'm going to have sessions for a few weeks. I would have thought at some point in time I might get some result in having received it. It sounds daft, but will I notice any change, or will I just change and not notice?
Well, I hope you would notice. It depends on the healer. I can't speak to the person who's giving you healing. I don't know how good she is, or how compatible her energy is with yours. There are lots of things that you need to consider when you're having someone give you healing. For my part, Chris will bear me out in this. My patients will often respond immediately because they'll just fall asleep. They'll just 1 minute they're there, and then the next minute their head's gone. Right, Chris?
Yes.
How many people have you seen? I've put my hands on them, and sometimes within a few seconds, There's, you know, and when they come out of it, they feel different. Their energy feels better, or they feel lighter or different, or what have you. Chris, how would you describe it when we give healing, or if you're watching me give healing, and you're watching me and you're watching the patient, and I know you've been there and you've seen all of this for many years, how would you describe it? I would say that our patients do feel something every time, but maybe I'm missing
Well,
something.
what I notice in the room itself, never mind just with your patient, is easiness, comfort, peace,
There's a calm.
relaxation. Yeah,
Yeah,
calm.
there's a calm and a peace. Yes. And added to that, and actually going back to my lovely Lynn Bolton, I was telling you about Lynn. She was for many, many, many years a district nurse, and she would travel. And she was a sister. She was the sister. She used to sort of head her group of nurses, and uh, we my group would go out into the community. We'd go into people's homes to give healing. We had a healing center as well, but we'd go out into homes when necessary. If people couldn't make it out of the house, we would go into their home and give them healing. And she actually had many reports from many of her nurses who, and sometimes they didn't even know, they would walk into the house of a patient, and they wouldn't even know that this patient was a patient of ours as well as a patient of theirs. But they would say, when you walk into the house, you can feel there's a difference. You can feel there's a peace and a calm and a tranquility. And the patients that we have don't get so anxious. I mean, you know, we had a lot of patients who were, you know, perhaps only had a week or 2 or 3 to live, or even a few days to live. But the anxiety that so many of these nurses experience with their patients was missing with patients who had healing. So I would, but I can't speak to the way that your healer works, Andrew. So I I don't know about that. But with our patients, certainly, when we give them healing. And Chris, how long have you been a student of mine? Chris is a fully qualified, fully fledged spiritual healer under my tutorship.
22 years, Rosemary. It's crazy.
So, but when you give healing to people, I mean, the majority will say that they feel something or are aware of something, right?
Well, I think the telltale sign is they come back.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, not necessarily, because Andrew keeps going back to his healer. So, even though he doesn't feel
True.
anything, so I don't know about that. I only know because we always sort of spend a little time with our patients afterwards. We talk to them, we ask them how they feel, and so on. And if we don't start to see the patients responding, and remember that healing is given first and foremost to the soul, not to the physical, but to the soul. So as the soul begins to heal and begins to grow and begins to get more energy and begins basically to be fed, there you should be feeling it, that difference very much so.
Well, I
Yeah.
think part of his question, Rosemary, and you may or may not be able to speak to this, because there are so many different healers and healing modalities in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, he's asking specifically about Reiki. What's the difference between Reiki and spiritual healing? The only instance I can think of when I was with you was when the Reiki healers next to us at the breast cancer conference came
Yeah.
over. They were watching
Where
us give
was
healing.
where was that, Chris?
That was in Burlington, Vermont.
Yeah, we went to a healing conference, and there were so many different people giving so many different types of healing. And it's true, we had people coming to we had a booth, And there was a little way away from us, there was a booth with Reiki people there, and they started to sort of, what would you say, gravitate towards us, Chris?
Yes.
And then they asked us for healing and so on, and we actually did not ask for healing from them. There is a great difference, I think, between Reiki and between the way that Reiki works and between the way that spiritual healing works. And again, it depends on your teacher, and it depends on who taught you to give healing. So if you have a healer, who taught that person? It depends on what they've learned. It depends on how they use their energy. It depends on many things. And I will say this, even between people who are spiritual healers, for instance, Chris, you will, although you've been taught by me and you know the basic rules, I do encourage my healers to then develop their own style and their own way of doing these things. And I always say there are healers for people. So if one healer doesn't work for you, then then you should perhaps try another healer. But I think that people respond to me differently than they might respond to Chris or to somebody else.
Well, and you said soul sign plays into that.
Yeah. Well, it does, because because there are healers for people. Is your energy compatible with somebody else's energy? Is there somebody who's better, who's able to connect better with you, connect better with your soul? But as I say, it's hard for me, because I've only got to put one finger on somebody. Right, Chris, they're out.
I've seen that.
I have a very weird, a very powerful energy. Remember, I've got Grey Eagle behind me too. So, and boy, oh boy, when he places his hands over mine, it's phenomenal. Let's move on, shall we?
Yes. Shell saying, hello, they're from Perth, Western Australia.
Hi, darlings.
Happy birthday to your daughter.
Oh, thank you.
I have had so many changes these last few months. The best thing I told myself is everything will be okay, or when one door shuts, another opens.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And you're absolutely right. When one door closes, another one does open. We don't always see it. We're so blind, and we're so very involved in our grief or our change of circumstance, that we don't always see when things are starting to get better. But I do believe that they will get better. So thank you for sharing that with us, Chris.
This is from Mark. So he says he has a difficult question for Grey Eagle and you.
Uh-oh.
Watching the world news on the Ukraine and seeing the horrific scenes of dead children, women, and men, the sorrow surrounding this, can Grey Eagle share anything on these souls taken so violently from the hands of Russian soldiers? Does he see if their killers are doing this act of horror without thought, just aim
Oh,
and shoot regardless? If this can't be answered, I understand.
well, it can't be answered in its entirety, because it's too complicated. We don't have the time. I don't think that many people are able to aim and shoot without feeling something. I'm sure that in any war on both sides, uh, you know, you have to steel yourself not to think about what you're doing and to just follow orders. My father was a soldier all of his life, a professional soldier all of his life. And I know, he actually talked to me once about garroting and going through the jungle and garroting. And his attitude was, it's them or me. So it's got to be them. There is a survival thing that kicks in. But I'm absolutely certain that the majority of soldiers on both sides, when there is killing involved, maiming involved, destruction involved, I'm pretty sure that they have to get into a mindset, but that does not mean that they're not affected. And I think when we're sending out healing to people, I think not only should we be sending out healing to those who are in the Ukraine, but we should also be sending out healing to those who are in Russia also. Just think about it. We go back to World War II, well, even further back, but anyway, if we look to World War II, that was the war my father was in. I mean, a lot of those soldiers had to do terrible things. Otherwise, they had terrible things done to them. Those soldiers who chose to refuse were called cowards. Their lives were made miserable if they refused to go in, either through religious beliefs or whatever. They were ostracized for years, in fact for their entire lives afterwards. Don't think it ended when the war ended, because it didn't. And then there were those who they had these awful breakdowns on the field of battle, and they would start running because they wouldn't even know where they were, and they'd be shot for trespass, not for trespass, they should be shot for whatever that is. What is it, Chris? For desertion. And there's nothing right about war. There is absolutely nothing right about war. When you say something bad about another human being, then you say something bad about God. When you destroy or try to destroy another human being, you try to destroy God. Remember that there is a little bit of God in all of us. Those of us who are of the light, we are of God. There is God within us. And every time you say a mean thing about someone else, then you're saying a mean thing to that little part of God. We really need to think about that. Unfortunately, all we can do is pray that both sides see sense. It's a horrible thing. War is a horrible thing. We can only pray.
Well, Mark's question brings up another question, which has to do with, there are people on both sides of the fence who say, boy, I really need to watch the news broadcasts and read the things on social media about this war to stay informed, because I need to be informed. And then you have people on the opposite side who says, it's happening, I'm not directly involved, I can't change that specifically, I can't, hold the gun or hold up the peace sign, etc. What's the best thing each of us as individuals can do along that spectrum?
Well, I think each individual has to decide for themselves. I am of the opinion, I do not want to turn on the TV and watch all of that. There was a report, somebody gave me a report of, there was in the Ukraine, and don't shoot the messenger, please. Don't get all sort of upset with me, because I'm just pointing out there are both sides to every story here. But the cameraman was out, and there were hundreds and hundreds of body bags being filmed in some square or another, and it was heartbreaking to see it, until some guy popped up from out of the body bag, opened his head, thinking that they'd finished filming. So were they all dead bodies? Because he wasn't dead. This guy who popped his head out of the body bag was certainly not dead. Were they all dead? Were some of them dead? Were none of them dead? Was it a propaganda exercise to show people, look, these terrible Russians and what they're doing? I mean, I think that you can get so steeped in the pros and cons, the fors and against of it. I personally do not watch the news, and I do not read the newspapers. Having said that, I am fully aware of what is going on. I just don't want to steep my life in it. I don't want my life to become all about the pain and the destruction and the heartache, which is war. Because if I do that and I become steeped in that, I'm missing the joys and the wonder. That is my life. So I find a very nice balance. I'm fully aware of what's going on. I don't know how I am, but people talk, people tell you things. I just don't steep myself in it because there's nothing I can do. What I do try to do is do try to pray, and I do ask God for his help and guidance for what is best for us as human beings, what is best for this world of ours, and what is best for Russia and for Ukraine. I ask for that. That's all that I can do. I went out this morning. It was early this morning. I went out into the driveway to whatever it was I went to do. I forgot what I went to do now. But anyway, I went out, and there was well, there were a few of them out actually. The most beautiful flowers blooming. Of course, now I forgot the name again. Gardenias, and the perfume was wafting at me, and I was able to stop and look at them and examine all of the bushes and put my nose in there and smell them. I was able to appreciate the cool breeze that came in, the lovely sort of comforting warmth that enveloped me, but not stifling, but the breeze that was there as well. And the breeze was carrying the perfumes of the flowers. And if I were so steeped in, oh God, what's happening to my life, and it's awful and it's miserable, and COVID and the war and and so on. If I had my head down and looking inward and worrying about things that I cannot change, remember, then I wouldn't have even had the pleasure and the joy of those beautiful flowers this morning. So I think we have to find a balance that is right for us. I have a friend who loves to call me, and she says, I heard on the news this, and I just heard that, and I saw this, and have you heard about that? And by the time you finish talking to her, if you're not careful, you're just so depressed. You don't want to get up. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to look anywhere. I refuse to let that happen to me. I don't know if that helps the question or not.
Pamela says, I'm feeling family members close to me today. I think they are wanting me to continue a writing project I set aside for various reasons. Are there any
You already know.
messages from my spirit family confirming?
I'm getting lots of head noddings. So, and Greg was chuckling because let me tell you, I'm in the same boat. Isn't that funny, Chris?
That is.
I was just talking to Chris yesterday. I've been feeling this around me for so long now. So about time I got my butt off the chair and did something about it. So I'm going to say that that's the message for you as well. Okay.
Bettis says, Dear Rosemary, there is a part of me so melancholy that I try to fight, but often I wonder if I'm really happy or I try to be happy for everyone's good.
You know better. You've been coming and looking at these shows and saying your little pieces from time to time. We love having you on these shows. You know that we do. But I would say that instead of worrying about whether anybody else is happy, I'm going to suggest you be a little selfish with yourself for a little while and work on doing things for yourself. I'm going to suggest to everybody, look, it's my daughter's birthday today, so I'm going to give you all a fabulous, fabulous birthday present. Are you ready? You ready
We're
for this
ready.
birthday present that I'm going to give you? Okay, I'm going to give you, as my gift to you all, I'm going to give you instructions. Follow them or not, open the gift or not, take it, use it, enjoy it or not, your choice. But my suggestion is that once a week, you do something nice for you, just for you, nobody else, just for you, nobody else, right? So that can mean you go out and you buy yourself some nice soap, or you you sort of go out and have lunch by yourself. I actually like doing that. I like sitting in a restaurant by myself at a table and enjoying myself and indulging myself. I actually did something completely and absolutely for myself, totally selfishly. The other day I made hobnobs and I am not sharing them with anybody. Now, my daughter and my grandson are coming next week. Luckily, they don't like hobnobs, so luckily I can eat them all for myself. And if a friend turns up in the meantime, comes in for a drink or something, will I share my hobnobs with that person? Absolutely not. They are mine. They're in the freezer. They are hidden. Do something for yourself. That is my gift. That is my advice to you. Just once a week. You can do it more if you want, but once a week, make a conscious effort, a really conscious effort. You might think on Sunday, right, what am I going to do for myself this week? Decide on the day, decide on the time, or whatever it is, and just do something for you. So that's my gift to you, Better. Do something just for you, and don't share it with anybody else, unless, of course, it's part of the gift and part of the enjoyment, and you can share. I'm not sharing my hobnobs with anybody. And Chris, let me tell you, the next time you're down, if there are hobnobs, you're not getting them. They're not for you. They're just for me. Right.
All right, so we're at time. One more question.
Okay.
All right, Bridget, one of our
Yeah.
bottom brickers.
Hi,
Uh,
darling.
and we're really excited for her here. So good news, she's graduating from college next month.
Bridget. Oh, if some of you don't know Bridget, and if you didn't see her bottom brick, it's there for you to see if you wherever it is you need to go to find it. Where is it that they need to go to find it, Chris?
I
Can they find it on the
believe it's still
website
on the
or?
website, and if it's not, because we try to keep that current, they can go to YouTube.
So, go to the bottom brick on YouTube, Rosemary Altea, bottom brick, and all of that stuff. Or if you don't know where to go to the website, rosemaryaltea.com. There you'll find my website. It'll tell you all about where to go. Bridget, I'm so excited for you. Oh, yay. I
So,
feel
but
like
she
birthday.
has a follow-on question to that, Rosemary.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
There is the however.
Uh-oh.
In the last month, I've been absolutely overwhelmed with new ideas, theories, and information. I'm seriously considering abandoning my previous career path and starting a new venture. These ideas occupy my mind day and night, but I
Okay.
am fearful. I'd love and appreciate guidance from you and Gray Eagle regarding taking this new step if you can.
Not without knowing much more about it. This is where I would say to people, if you can go have a consultation, go, you can book with me or with somebody else, because these are life-changing decisions, and you can't just do it on a whim. I mean, I could and you'd be happy about it, but it wouldn't be real. So I'm excited for new beginnings, because whether or not you change careers, new beginnings and new hope for you. And I can hear that you've got so much confidence now, and we're thrilled about that, because we feel, a little bit responsible, don't we, Chris? We feel, the bottom. We know the bottom brick exercise helped you tremendously, and we're so excited about all of that for you. So that's as much as we can say. But if any of you out there, if you've got sort of life-changing decisions to make, or you're not sure about where your path should be, etc., a consultation either with me or with, just make sure you find someone who's real, who's good, is probably the way to go, the better way to go. Okay, Chris, that's it, I think. So look, hasn't it gone fast this morning? We've had so much fun. Yay, it's April the 7th. I was going to tell you the story about 777, but that'll have to wait. Perhaps I'll tell you that story on Saturday. Anyway, why the number 7 is my number, my very special, my very magical number. And it's an odd story, but anyway, I'll if I remember, I'll tell you that on Saturday, or we might do an off the cuff. If we could do an off the cuff, I can tell you when we do the off the cuff. How about that, Chris? Anyway, remember that we've got something going on Friday. I've forgotten what it is. Oh,
Healing
healing.
hands.
Healing. We've got something going on tomorrow. Healing. I'm going to give you this exercise, which will help you to love yourselves. We should be back on Saturday morning with story time, of course. somewhere in the mix, somewhere in the next few days, we'll try and do another off the cuff. Next week, hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed, it will be on Good Friday, which is not this coming Friday, the Friday after. Hopefully, we're going to be having a cracking up session with my friends K and K. That should be interesting. My daughter and my grandson will be here then, and they might even choose to join in. And of course, if you want to know how I'm going to plan my Easter hunt, because the Easter rabbit comes, I mean, you know, what can we say? He's got to come. Reese is already saying to me, have I spoken to him? I think he really knows. He's 9 years old. I think he really knows that I'm really the Easter Bunny. But, but you know, we play the game as we all do. I want the magic to last as long as I possibly can. So I'll be telling you all about my Easter hunt as well. And we may even have pictures of the Easter hunt to share with you. So just stay with us. Keep following, keep tracking us. Thank you all so very much for joining today. I'd like to say thanks to Chris, of course, as always, and particularly and especially I would like to say thank you to Gregor for being with us too. He's going to be with me the whole rest of the day while we're sort of slogging away on the book. We'll let you know when it's ready. Anyway, slogging isn't really the right word, but until I see you all again, please, please, please have a very blessed rest of this wonderful April the 7th day. Gosh, birthday. Have a fabulous, wonderful rest of the day, everybody. And if I don't see you before, have a wonderful and a blessed, very blessed weekend.